good, everybody? It's your boy Todd Smith here once again alongside my tag team partner Dale Clifford out there in Fernley, Nevada. Welcome to the 100th episode of the No Gimmicks Podcast, broadcasting also as well on the 3 and Out Radio Network. Dale, what's good, my man?
What up, Todd? Here we are. It was like 100, and I kind of am excited for the guest that we got. I think it's a pretty big name in the wrestling industry that we're bringing on for our 100th video, so really kind of excited to learn a little bit more about him too.
Yes, sir. So joining us as our special guest on this edition of the No Gimmicks Podcast is none other than the Bay Area's own Mike Modest. Mike, what's good, brother?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing very good, man. So, yeah, we got a very good response for your appearance here in the No Gimmicks Podcast. We have a lot of questions to ask. Also, some of our viewers and whatnot, some of the boys from the NorCal scene. So let's go ahead and dive right into it.
Right on. Hopefully I have answers.
I hope you do, too. So here we go, Mike. So you've been wrestling for literally over 2 decades now. So please share with us and our viewers, what inspired you to join the professional wrestling business, who trained you, and which company gave you your start?
Oh, man. What inspired me was first probably my uncle. My uncle Rocky, he watched wrestling. My mom and dad didn't watch it, but sometimes he'd come over to the house and he'd go straight to the bedroom and he'd turn on the other TV, and I'd go in there and watch it with him and my cousins. And then, sometimes I'd go over to his house and same thing. That was my first, exposure to it was my Uncle Rocky. And after that, it seemed like I kind of lost contact with wrestling for a period of time. And then I remember seeing wrestling again for the first time, and it was Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas versus Dick Murdoch and Adrian Adonis. And what had happened was they had attacked Rocky on his way down to the ring, and they busted him open, and he was too bloody to continue. And so the referee just pretty much called it, hey, this is a no contest. So Tony Atlas basically says, well, I'll do it by myself then. I'll take him on. And they both agree. And I don't remember who was doing the play-by-play, but I remember them saying, look at the both of them giggling like hyenas or something like that, or like jackals, smiling like jackals. And they accepted, and so they beat the crap out of Tony most of the match. Tony did pretty good for a couple of minutes, and then they really beat him down. And towards the end of the match, Tony's trying to go for the corner tag, but no one's there. Rocky's gone.
Right.
And because Rocky couldn't even be ringside because he had to go be taken care of at the hospital. So he keeps going for this corner that no one's at. He keeps trying to, make a comeback for, with nobody. And finally, here comes Rocky running down. He's got the bandage wrapped around. He jumps up on the corner and he reaches. He gets the tag. Rocky Johnson comes in. He cleans house, goes for the cover. Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas are disqualified because Rocky Johnson, the referee had already said Rocky Johnson could not, participate that night.
Right.
So I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. And, I remembered it from being a younger kid, and it hooked me. I remember that storyline right there. It really hooked me. Okay. And just the injustice behind it, it made me so angry. And yet I even remember, at that age, I don't know how old I even was, but I completely knew what I was watching was a form of entertainment, an athletic form of entertainment where definitely people could get hurt. And I realized right away that these guys were tough and that they were badass dudes, to be able to do this stuff. And I was like, man, yeah, that's something I'd like to do,
Okay. All right. So that's
and as far as how I got trained, the first trainer I ever had was Jerry Monte.
Okay.
And Jerry Monte, he wrestled as an Indian to begin with. He, as I guess a lot of Italian guys did, they wrestled as Indians, which kind of a slap in the face. But because they had the dark skin, and then Jerry, just kind of, he ended up wrestling mostly prelim. And he ended up being a jobber or a preliminary wrestler or enhancement talent, whatever's politically correct now. I don't know. I liked jobber. I think jobber's better.
Yeah.
But Jerry, basically what happened was I was a part of something called the team committee. So we decided we were going to do our own backyard kind of thing, and we got the go ahead from the team committee, which I still can't believe. Her name was Terry Telford. She was the one that facilitated it. And she was so awesome because she cut through the red tape of all the worry about us getting hurt. It's so funny how people are real quick to say how wrestling's fake. But then when it comes time for waivers and stuff, oh, no, you guys might get hurt.
Right.
Wait a minute. Which is it? Is it fake and acting, or might we get hurt?
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you, you can get hurt. You can get hurt real bad.
Oh, we both know that.
Right. So we basically, we really wanted a ring. We didn't want to do some corny ass thing where we put a bunch of pads on the floor and we were pretending like there was ropes, And so we had to rent a ring, and we ended up finding a ring down in Hayward from Jerry Monte. And Jerry rented us the ring, and he was a really cool dude. And Jerry saw something in me and approached me, and he was like, hey, you got a little something about you. Yeah, I think you might be able to do this, And he said, you've never been trained, and you're actually not too bad. And so he gave me an offer to come down, train at his place. I didn't have a job at the time, and I didn't have a vehicle. Okay. And he told me that he would charge me $25 a month if I could get down there, if I could find a way down there. Well, $25 a month, that's not too much. And I found a way to come up with $25 a month and to get down there, every weekend. And I'd stay down there with some of the other wrestlers, just crash. And so Jerry gave me my first start, and I've got to say, Jerry's training, Jerry's passed away now, and I'm definitely not knocking him, okay, when I say this. Jerry was more of an entertainer than a wrestler,
Okay.
So Jerry was able to teach me good little shticks, little things. Like I remember one of them that he taught me, and he used to start almost every match with this when he was doing independent wrestling. He would lock up with the heel. The heel would take the headlock, tell the referees got my tights, give Jerry a pop to the head. Jerry'd sell it, tell the ref, hey, what happened? The whole shtick, right? Mm-hmm. Referee asks the people, hey, did he punch him? The people are saying, yeah. Heel saying no. Ref didn't see it. So he does this again. Repeat a second time. Third time, same gimmick. Heel goes for the punch. Jerry sticks up his left arm, blocks the punch, turns that left arm to where he grabs the headlock, and now he unloads like 10 good ones on the heel. On the 10th one, he winds it up, gives it the whole rope-a-dope. Boom, big shot. The heel takes a bump on his butt and rolls out, powders out, and now the referee's threatening to disqualify Jerry Monte because the referee saw those 10 punches.
Right.
So Jerry was able to teach me a lot of things like that, little carnival, vaudevillian kind of entertainment things that were so cool. One of them that I used to use in Japan, the pump handle spot, it's very popular now here in the States and stuff, but I used to use that in Japan, and when I first used it, oh my God, the crowd just loved it. It was so funny, and it's just an old comedy spot,
Mm-hmm.
The first guy that really trained me to be a wrestler was Rick Thompson and APW. Rick Thompson started coming around working with Jerry, and right away, because Rick had an amateur background, and so did I kind of gravitated towards him. There was a credibility in his wrestling because he mixed the amateur with the professional. The things that Rick did were so believable on an athletic level. And Rick did have some experience in Japan. He was lucky enough to go to Japan. So he always appreciated that kind of style. And Rick threw an amazing drop kick. And I recognized that the talent in Rick Thompson right away. Plus, he was about my size. He was a little shorter than me, but thick and, just a heck of an athlete. And so I started getting trained by him with Jerry. And then eventually Roland started his school. And me and Rick, of course, ended up there. And I was Rick's assistant to start.
Okay. All right. So definitely a lot going on there. So I'm going to go ahead and toss it to Dale here, and he's going to ask you the next question. Dale, what you got for Mike?
So obviously, as you kind of just said, your career mostly began working with APW, but it expanded to some pretty good international companies such as AAA, CMLL, Stampede Wrestling, and NOAH. What led you to receiving some of these opportunities, and what was your proudest moment?
Well, it's amazing, man. I'm so envious of the guys nowadays with this technology, okay? Because I'm not very good at it. And I'm still impressed that I can send emails and I can share something off of YouTube. I get really proud of myself on that kind of stuff. But really, my 14-year-old son is better at, and my 13-year-old son, soon to be 13, they're better at it than I am. And they know way more about this world than I do. When I got those opportunities, it was because through a lot of diligence and a lot of begging, I've got video copies of matches from different promoters, APW and others. Roland was actually very sharing, and he if you were a member of All Pro Wrestling, you did have access to video, and you were allowed to, copy stuff right there on the facility, at the facility. And sometimes you could also rent tapes and pull tapes out of there, sign them out, not rent, but sign them out. Okay. So with that footage and some of the footage that I'd gotten from other companies, Big Time Wrestling, and there's a couple of companies that are now defunct, UPW down in LA, run by Rick Bassman.
Familiar with that.
I was able to get help from a couple of people. One, John LaRocca, who is part of All Pro Wrestling still to this day, and also Gabe Ramirez, who has started his own company, Pro Wrestling Revolution.
Right.
These guys were so cool that they helped me put together these videos and then put a couple of matches at the end of these videos to send out to companies. And I would just blindly send them out. I would send letters, and send a videotape and send them out and just hope that I got a phone call. And we didn't have cell phones, so it was difficult. And there were times where I would come home and my mom or someone, that was a roommate or whatever would say, "Oh, so-and-so called from Alaska." "Oh, no shit. Did you get their number?" No. They said they'd probably call back in like a day or two. I'm like, fuck. Are you kidding me? All you had to do was get a number. And meanwhile, I don't even know who the person was.
Right.
So it was very frustrating. It was really difficult to get your name out there as an independent wrestler, someone who didn't have an in, didn't really know anybody. It was hard to get out there. Jerry, God bless him, Jerry had some contacts with WWE or WWF at the time.
Right.
And Jerry got me to got them to look at me a few times with Chief Jay Strongbow as his connection, and it just never really led to anything. And that it's funny because that was years before Beyond the Mat, just years before. So a lot of people they have the opinion or the I guess the illusion that Beyond the Mat was my first tryout with WWE, and wow, what an amazing thing. But I had many tryouts with them. I had wrestled for them quite a few times. And then also I worked for them in a jobber capacity many times, just getting squashed. And, let me go back to that, man. I was offended, and I love Terry Taylor, and he's the best guy in the world.
The Red Rooster,
he's
right?
Level-headed, super smart guy. But I was having a candid conversation with him. I used the term jobber, and this was during a TNA taping. But after work, okay, this was at a restaurant. We were having a few beers, and I used the term jobber. And Terry says, "Oh, don't use that term." And I was like, "Why not?" And he says, "Well, it's politically incorrect." And I was like, "Politically incorrect? What do you mean? That's a great term, jobber, And he goes, "Yeah, not anymore." And I was just like, "Oh God!" I wasn't offended that Terry told me that. I was just like, "What kind of business is this turning into?" And this is 13, 14 years ago, so I'd hate to imagine how it's changed now.
Yeah.
But I was like, "What kind of business is this that you got to really jobber?" To me, I don't know. I was so proud when I got to go be a jobber for WWE. To me, it was like being called a journeyman. It's a way of the senior guys kind of giving you a little bit of a rib, giving you a little sock to the arm, and welcome you to the brotherhood.
Right.
It's a little bit of a razz. But good God, in this business, as far as razzes go, it's real minor, folks. So I didn't understand that, and I still don't. Anyways, I don't know. I probably didn't even answer the question.
So, hey, let me ask this one here. What was the exact term that he preferred for you to use? Was it enhancement talent, or what was it, Mike? Rather than jobber.
Yeah, enhancement talent.
Okay. All right.
That's what they wanted to use.
Okay.
That's what they say, enhancement talent. To me, enhancement talent, that sounds like something anybody can do.
Right.
You know what? When I was a jobber, I did a good job. I made that star look like $1 million, or I did the best I could. Like recently someone posted my very first jobber match with WWE, WWF was Coco Beware. And I was 18 years old. That was 1989 or 1990.
Okay.
And I was so happy to be in that match. And it was being taped for prime time, so they actually gave us more time. I assumed that they wouldn't give me anything and that Coco was just going to kick my ass from start to finish. Well, during the match, at several points, Coco said, "Hey, kid, give me something, And all I did was punch him for the most part. I think at one point he called hip toss. He said hip toss. So I hip tossed him. But other than that, I punched him, and that's it. It was all left-handed punches from that point on. Anytime he said, "Give me something," I'd left-hand punch him to the gut at that. And the reason why was I didn't want to hurt him, and we'll go to that story later, okay? I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want to stiff him, okay? I had my ass whooped a few times for accidentally stiffing a guy, okay? So on national television, I really didn't want to have my face, rearranged by this dude, Right. And Coco was a thick, big, strong guy, man. And I also didn't get a chance to talk to him before the match at all. He was nowhere to be found. I was sent out there, and Goulet told me that Coco would give the ref the finish, Ref will give you the finish. And so I walked out there. I was like, oh, man. And I was a mark for the Ghostbuster. I was so afraid of it. And I'd never taken one before. And I was hoping it was going to be the drop kick off the top rope.
Right, because he had a sweet missile drop kick from off the top. He sure did. I remember that.
Yeah, he did. And I was really hoping that was going to be the finish, And when Coco came out, he said, Ghostbuster. Ref was checking me. He says, Ghostbuster. I was like, oh, boy. And so back to why I didn't stiff him. I didn't want to stiff him. I didn't want to get hurt. And plus, I knew I was getting the Ghostbuster, So I really, really didn't want to offend the guy. And I didn't want to pick him up and start body slamming him and suplexing him. Who am I? I'm an 18-year-old kid. I'm Mike Stone. They just gave me the name minutes ago. So I had no illusions of grandeur. I knew I was a jobber. And I think that's a good thing about the term is you know exactly where you stand on the totem pole.
Right.
And especially when they give you a jobber name, Matt Burns or, Joe Schmo or whatever, it kind of lets you know this is my spot and that's cool. I just started. I'm at the first rung of a ladder that I want to climb, and so, but after the match, Coco asked me, he was like, hey man, I gave you a couple of shots. Why didn't you, you could have slammed me, could have, done a few things. And I said, man, I didn't want to take liberties with you, with your body. I said, I just respect you and I didn't want to mess up. I just wanted to make you look good. Well, but it aired on USA.
That's cool, man.
It was so cool. So it wasn't that bad, I did okay. And at that time I had really long hair. So that was kind of cool too.
Okay, yeah, because I saw some earlier pictures from earlier on in your career where you had the blonde hair, but it was shorter. But that was actually a question that Luster, a legend, half of the Reno Scum, he had wanted to know about that. What your experience was like taking the Ghostbuster from Coco. So that's something that he wanted to ask. So yeah, I'm glad that you shared that experience with us. So the next question I have for you, Mike, you definitely have left your imprint inside of the ring. A lot of the companies out there in the Bay Area and whatnot, but I would like to know what it was like for you outside of the squared circle as being one of the owners and operators of Pro Wrestling Iron alongside Donovan Morgan. So what was that experience like for you actually being like the, the head man or the booker, I guess, at Pro Wrestling Iron?
Well, I honestly, I would say Donovan was the head man at Pro Wrestling Iron.
Okay.
And the reason why is when I had my falling out with Roland, it was between me and Roland, and that was it. And I had no intention of trying to hurt Roland's business or run a company against Roland. That was never something that popped into my head or that I thought, oh, I should do this.
Okay.
When Donovan had his falling out, it was a little different, and it was a little more underhanded what happened. Basically, Roland had offered the job to Brian Danielson and Spanky. I think it was Spanky was the second guy. He had offered the job of head trainer at APW to both of them.
That's Brian Kendrick, right? The second guy, Spanky?
What's that?
That's Brian Kendrick you were referring to, correct?
Yeah, okay. Brian Kendrick.
All right.
So Roland had done this kind of behind Donovan's back, So it really pissed Donovan off. And Donovan had really built the company up quite a bit. He really worked hard with APW, and he had made that company a lot of money and had brought the company to a whole different level. And he just felt like it was a real slap in the face. And so he was driven strongly on revenge and anger, also love for the business. And so he really wanted to start this thing. I told him, I said, after being involved with APW from the start, I was with APW for 12 years. And after being with it from the doors opening, before the doors opened, I was in there before a ring was in there, and all we had was a soda machine. We had, bizarrely enough, that was the first thing that was in the place was a soda machine.
In the garage, right?
In the garage, yeah.
Wow.
Soda machine
Okay.
was first. And then the ring was pretty close after that. And I remember sleeping in that ring and the glow of the soda machine being my nightlight at nights.
Wow.
Anyways, I digress. I'm sorry. What were we talking about? Going back to.
So basically, yeah, we just wanted to try to get an ideas of what it was like with your experiences of, actually being in the role, like you had described that it was more.
Oh, yeah. So
who was the head man?
So I knew how hard it was going to be. I was there from the start, and I didn't want to do that all over again. I was like, man, I don't want to start something and put another 12 years in it and then have something happen and it goes away again. It's too heartbreaking. I'm done. Mm-hmm. And Donovan convinced me he really wanted to do it. Said, hey, I'm down for the work. So we did it. And I loved the company. I loved most of the guys involved. A few of them really broke my heart. A few people, it's amazing when, you got 30, 40, 50 people under you. It's amazing how many of them can start scheming and plotting and planning, and how quick things can kind of go awry when you're not around. When Donovan and I would leave and we'd go to Japan, we weren't as hands-on when we were gone, and people that we put in charge sometimes didn't do the best job. I got a call one time from a student. He was the only one that showed up for practice, and the door was wide open. And I'm in Japan, and I was livid. Man. So I guess the most eye-opening thing about running my own company at that point with Donovan and Frank Murdoch was that it's very hard to get people that you can really depend on and that can see the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. Paul Lee was really good with ECW explaining to people, hey, this can be something big, but everyone's got to put in, You got to put in the sweat, you got to put in the hours, and the love. And when you have anybody in a company trying to undermine you or play political games, makes it really hard. And the company usually starts to sour and fail.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm telling you, just from being, on this side of it, man, from the podcast side of things, as I said, Dale and I, we trained together and we actually, wrestled together as well. But there's very few people who I would take on this type of adventure with besides him. For those reasons alone, you got to have someone who you could trust, someone who is going to be reliable and whatnot, and understands the bigger picture. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Dale, who's got a question about some of the documentaries and whatnot that you've been in. Mike, what you got for him, Dale?
All right, so most people might know you from two of the bigger pro wrestling documentaries out there, Beyond the Mat and Expose Pro Wrestling's Greatest Secrets, both kind of controversial in their own right. Do you have any regrets for appearing on either one of these documentaries?
No regrets at all. There was a period of time where I was real bummed about the way people in the business and in the WWF, I was bummed about the way they behaved and acted, and it just seemed so markish to me. Mm-hmm. To me, I'm telling you, okay, from a kid that grew up in the Bay Area, and I grew up in Richmond, San Pablo, and Richmond and El Sobrani. Sure. And, I had been in fights. Mm-hmm. So I knew that the odds of throwing anybody to some ropes and then bouncing back and they're running the whole time. And then you just whack them with your arm. I just knew that probably wasn't exactly on a legit scale. Mm-hmm. I was smart enough to look at a leg drop. If you hit the leg drop, your ass is like iron. The mat doesn't hurt. But if you miss this leg drop, oh my God, the ring suddenly becomes a sheet of iron barbs, and it hurts so bad. You know, drop kicks are fine. You can even do them off the top rope, and as long as you connect, you can land on your back and stuff, and you're cool. If you miss, oh, it's shambles.
Yep.
There were these inconsistencies that don't go along with a real fight, but they're fantastic inconsistencies. I love it when someone shoots somebody to the ropes or picks them up by the arm and gives them a short arm clothesline. And the short arm clothesline, the clothesline itself is a real principle in martial arts. And a lot of the things that happen in professional wrestling do come from some sort of discipline.
Yep.
It's just sometimes altered slightly for protection or not applied as effectively so that you're not killing somebody. You know, it's to me, what I always liked most about professional wrestling versus like MMA is the fact that MMA, it typically ends with the hammer punch, which I like to call the caveman punch or the jerk off punch, because it looks like you're jerking off. To me, it's not a fucking martial art. Come on, you know? And so when you're telling me that that's what it is, I don't buy that, and I don't enjoy it. I don't like it. It's not fun to me. I do enjoy MMA and I like MMA, but I always love it when an actual discipline is utilized. It's not just the jerk off punch, you know, or the rear naked choke. You know, occasionally you do see a Superman or, you know, a nice roundhouse, and, you know, it's an amazing sport. I'm not trying to sell it short. But what I like about professional wrestling is you're pretty much always guaranteed to see some badass moves. Yep. Even in a jobber or enhancement talent match, you're bound to see the star's 5 or 6 key moves that he always does. You're going to see them all right now performed perfectly because this guy is there for that job, you know?
Right.
So again, I don't know if I answered the question.
It's all good, man. Hey, you know what? We love it, man, because like I said, I had talked to a few people prior to this interview, and everybody was so excited that we were having you on the show because one thing is for sure, you're real. You know, I can see the passion, man. I can see, you know, like the expression in your face. I know this is something that's real for you, man, and we're glad to have you here, Mike.
So, no, you know, it's funny too because on a side note, the name Modest, I remember when I was really trying to think of a gimmick name, you know, and I was like, what am I going to call myself? You know, because WWF called me Mike Stone. Right. So I was like, well, shit, I don't want to be called Mike Stone for the rest of my life. That doesn't sound real good. And so I was trying to think, like, what would my gimmick be? And Woody Farmer, he ran Big Time Wrestling with his son Shane Cody, who is actually champion right now of Big Time Wrestling, still right now running. And Woody had this gimmick for me, Sweet Cyrus. Sweet he wanted to call me.
Sounds
and
like it was a man.
It was a gay gimmick. And and I was like, hey man, I'll take anything I can get, you know, I'll take this shot. But at the same time, I was kind of like, man, I really don't like the name too much, you know? And I was trying to think of what my name could be, you know? And it just never occurred to me. And finally, working with APW, a lot of the guys started just nicknaming me Modest. Okay. And the reason why was when we would do something and I would emulate it perfectly, Rick would say like, God damn it, Mike Modest, Mike Modest, Mike Modest, Mike Modest. And he'd go, that was perfect. Now if everybody could just be like Mike, you know, that slogan was very popular at the time.
Yes, sir. Yes, it was.
With Michael Jordan.
Uh-huh.
So he'd say, if everybody could just be like Mike, and it would embarrass me. Accolades and people making a big deal out of something that I've done or accomplished really makes me feel uncomfortable. And it always has made me blush, and I kind of get to where I almost don't even know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so the guys would say, "Oh, there he goes. Oh, modest," because I'd go, "Oh, Rick, it wasn't that good," and they'd go, "Oh yeah, there he goes, being modest." And then that started sticking. People just started calling me Modest, and Mike was my first name already, so it fit. And Roland likes to say, I'm sorry, before he passed, Roland used to say that he came up with the name. And he kind of did. He kind of did, because it was a nickname the guys were all giving me anyways. And Roland said, well, you should just go with that, just go with Modest. But the boys kind of gave me the name in a way.
That makes it even better, man. That makes it even better.
Perspective.
When you got the respect of your peers and the boys, whatnot. So, Mike, you had the opportunity to work for Global Force Wrestling, which was then known at the time as TNA, as a member of a stable called La Migra, a.k.a. the Border Patrol, alongside Donovan Morgan and Simon Gotch. So my question for you is, who the hell came up with this gimmick, man, for you three, and why was it short-lived in TNA? Well,
I believe the guy that came up with it, I think his name was Ron Sculler.
Okay.
But I might be mistaken. But anyways, he promoted shows for CMLL and here in the United States. And so he came up with this idea, and he pitched it to Roland. And basically me and Justice were the ones that, they put under the gimmick. And we wrestled against Spike Dudley on a CMLL card here in the States. We wrestled against Spike Dudley, who was wrestling as El Mexicano Blanco, the white Mexican, and Super Diablo, who was a big star here in the Bay Area, and then it was me and Max Justice, or Mike Diamond, whatever you prefer. He and I were the first La Migra, but the idea was from a local promoter, and Roland was the one that stuck us with the gimmick. And then I'd used the gimmick a few different times. Even once we wrestled Lenny Lane and some other guy on a show up in St. Louis.
Okay.
And so we used the gimmick a few different times. Also in Incredibly Strange Wrestling, we used it quite a few times. And there, I remember one match we had, again, Spike Dudley as El Mexicano Blanco, and also El Bomba Negro, who was Robert Thompson, the Brown Bomber, who is now the head instructor for Pro Wrestling Revolution.
Okay.
Which now I guess Gabe Ramirez has got a trademark now on the La Migra gimmick, as far as I've been told or whatever.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, we were just a little curious about that one. So moving on to the next question, Dale, what you got for Mike?
So you've earned the title of head trainer for Future Stars of Wrestling. What would you say are some of the challenges you faced, and who do you feel has been your biggest success story?
Well, with Future Stars of Wrestling, I was more than just a trainer for them. I was a part owner. There was 4 original owners: me, a guy named Jack Slammy, and or Jack Brown, and Joe DeFalco, and also Rocky Thurber. So there was 4 of us. We were supposed to be owners, and we all had our little jobs to do and this and that. And my job was to be the instructor. And so I did my job diligently for 7 years, and never could get in writing that I was an owner of the company. And there was a point where creatively and in every other way, I just felt like things weren't being run quite on the up and up always. They weren't transparent. That's the word to use. They weren't transparent. And when there's no transparency, then doubt starts to creep in your mind. And I really missed California and having quicker and easier access to my kids. So, ultimately I made the decision after 7 years to bounce from the company. I have a verbal from Rocky Thurber that, I'll always be a part owner in the company, but that remains to be seen. I wish the company the best, because I started it with these guys and watched it grow and into what it is now, and it's actually pretty successful. And I would advise any young talent wanting to break into the business to try to contact them and get your foot in the door, with an appearance there. But so that's it.
Got you. Okay. So we've talked a lot about real life, Mike, but this is a question that I've been dying to ask you, because Dale and I, we go to head on this conversation every single time. This is a real serious topic, man. What kind of a fan are you? Are you a fan of WWE 2K video games or a Fire Pro Wrestling? Because this guy right here, Mike Modest, was one of the selectable characters on my favorite pro wrestling game, Fire Pro Wrestling R, which in my opinion is the best pro wrestling simulation ever made. And I remember using you on that game, Mike. So my question is, A, have you ever had the opportunity to control yourself on that game? Were you even aware that you were included in it? And what's up with them royalty checks, man? Are you getting them? What's the deal here with Fire Pro Wrestling R?
Yeah, I never got any kind of royalty checks with Fire Pro Wrestling at all. I did play one version of the game. I don't know. I guess there's been a couple of different versions. Yes. But I did play one version of the game, and I played myself, and it was kind of cool. And then Noah also produced a video game with Xbox, and I think also PlayStation, but I know for sure Xbox, called Kings of the Colosseum.
Yep,
I was also in that game, and that was a lot of fun to play. I played that in Japan and also played that here, and I received one royalty check for that.
Gotcha.
When I was with the company with Noah, I used to receive royalty checks from different videos and DVDs. Actually, I should say DVDs, because at that time it was DVDs. I'm dating myself if I say VHS.
Yes.
They were actually DVDs at the time. So, but I received one royalty check for the video game, and then after that, I've never seen a royalty check from that company. Mm-hmm. So I'm expecting one of these days. I think what they're doing is they're just waiting for it to accumulate, because sometimes it's not a whole lot. So I think they're waiting for it to accumulate, and then like for my 50th birthday or something, they're gonna like slam it on me. They're gonna be like, "Yo, Modesto-san, here's that $50,000 that we owe you from the video game and this and that, or whatever." I'm sure it's gonna happen.
Hey, so this is the truth, man. They're actually releasing another Fire Pro game. I just found this out recently, actually, through this cat, Richard Hamasaki, who I'm friends with on Facebook, that they're actually releasing another one called Fire Pro Wrestling World. And it's kind of like a revamped, like 2017 edition version of the game. I'm going to let you know when I play it if I see you on there, man. And like I said, one of these days, man, I hope you get them checks. I hope it works out for you that way, Mike.
Yeah, I'm going to start holding my breath right now. Hold on. There we go. I'm fucked. Oh, excuse me, I did it again. Damn it.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
Yeah.
Hey, so we got some guys from Facebook who watched the show and whatnot, and they got some questions for you. So I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Dale here as he asks a question for Robert Butch Hogg.
Cool.
All right. First one is, what advice could you pass along to anyone trying to make it in professional wrestling?
Well, you know what? I'll give you the same advice that Bobby the Brain Heenan gave me, because I asked him the same exact question, and I figured who better to ask than the Brain, And the Brain said, and I'm going to tell you, don't get into the professional wrestling industry. Instead, go do something else. It's always funny when you peek behind the curtain and you see what's really going on behind Oz. sometimes it's not as glamorous or it's not as fun. The injuries aren't as cool. You know, there's so many things about the business that are drawbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that being said, if you love the industry, what I just said won't matter anyways, and you're going to do it anyhow. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to do it anyhow, make sure you are trained by somebody reputable and by somebody who you can tell, like you can watch somebody wrestle. They should be able to actually wrestle. You should be able to, like if you wrestled in high school, in my opinion, if you're being trained, you should be able to go there and see them do something at some point that you recognize.
Yep.
In my opinion, if you don't see that, if you don't see amateur wrestling and professional wrestling, then I'd say get trained somewhere else. You know, if it's a place where it's like punch, kick, table, here's a chair, I'm going to set you on fire, I would suggest you go someplace else.
Hey, man, the moment somebody comes at me with a cigarette lighter and some kerosene,
right,
I'm running the opposite direction. I don't know about y'all, but
well, the thing is a lot of these referees, I don't know if you saw this or not, but at an APW event just recently, I was checked by the referee, and because I had my doubts about his credentials, I put a lighter in my knee pad. And when he checked me down, he missed the lighter, 100% missed it. So I grabbed the microphone, I pulled the lighter out, and I asked him, I said, you know what this is? I lit it. I showed the guy I was wrestling had a beard, a big beard. I could have lit his beard on fire. I could have put him in a headlock and lit his beard on fire. I could have used it as a fist pack. There's all kinds of things you can do with a lighter. I could bust it and put the lighter fluid in his eyes and then light him on fire. How do you like that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I asked him, I said, where did you get your referee's license from? A Cracker Jack box? You know? One time I wore my wedding ring into the ring on purpose. This was before when I was married. I'm married now, but I'm not married like I don't have a ring, you know?
Right. I know what you mean.
I'm with somebody for a long time. I love her very much, but you know, the ring's not there right now. Mm-hmm. But anyways, I wore the ring on purpose, and the referee, he patted me down. He even touched my hands.
Wow. On
the pat down. He was so thorough, but he didn't say nothing about the ring. Nothing. So I had to point it out to him that, hey, you know how dangerous it is to get punched with a ring? You know, these referees, they got to learn how to do their jobs.
Yeah. Hey, Dale used to be a referee. That dude used to pat me down from head to toe.
You have to.
Yeah.
There was a guy that used to referee for the WWE named Mike Toomey.
Uh-huh.
And at the start of FSW, he was a referee for FSW. And every match, I'd bring something in the ring, and he'd pat me down and look for it, and he'd always miss it. And one time it was a giant hook with a chain attached. It was about 1.5 feet long. And then another time it was baby boots, little tiny baby boots. And I had them in the back of my trunks. And as he was reaching around to check me, I thought, I'm busted. Because he reached all the way around, you know?
Uh-huh.
But he stopped just short enough for baby boots in the back of my trunks. And he pulled, you know, when he put his hands away, I just started shaking my head. And he knew it. He knew I had him again. Uh-huh. These referees, they can't catch me on a shoot. They can't catch me on the reel. That's what's awesome about it.
You putting them on.
People always say, how do you sneak brass knucks in the ring? Believe me, I brought way bigger things than a brass knuckle into the ring, and the referees are blind. They'll pat you down, and they'll feel a gun in your pocket, and they won't say nothing because they think, it's part of the gimmick. Must be part of the finish. Yeah, part of the finish.
Yeah, that whole part where you unload a clip into your opponent's head, that whole finish, right?
Yeah, exactly. Unreal.
Hey, so speaking of that, let's transition to the next question, Dale, about the Suicide Watch videos.
Yeah, so Robert was also curious to tell us what you could about the Suicide Watch videos as Todd was talking about.
Well, the Suicide Watch videos came from me being really, really depressed. I had a fantastic tryout with WWE in Beyond the Mat.
Mm-hmm.
They had called go home early. They had thought that I was going to stink up the building, but instead the match was a success and the match was very, very good. I had the opinion that they were going to paint a different picture of our match. I already knew that Droz was getting a contract.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the funny feeling that I was going to be painted as, oh, poor guy, he didn't get the contract. Not to mention the fact that I had had a lot of tryouts with them. Many, many times I had these tryouts and they would give me the go home early, or the guy I was wrestling, they'd give him the go home early, whatever. But either way, when you have 5 minutes and you kind of plan on 5 minutes and you get to go home at 45 seconds, it kind of screws things up for you.
Mm-hmm.
A little hard to get the crowd on your side in 45 seconds when you think you have 5 minutes. Now, if you tell me I got 45 seconds, I'm enough of a professional. Believe me, I'll figure something out.
Yep.
I'll walk out there eating a bowl of Fruit Loops and slam it into my opponent's face. They'll go crazy for it. I'll figure something out. But when you tell me I got 5 and you cut it in 45 seconds, it makes it difficult. So I had a lot of these tryouts, and I told Tony Jones, no matter what, we're getting 10 minutes. And I had told Barry Blaustein that was my condition for having that segment. That came after they had already been filming me, doing some other things. They had already been interviewing me. And, I had had enough tryouts with them that I was like, no, I'm not interested. Thanks. Unless I get guaranteed 10 minutes. If I get a guaranteed 10 minutes, I will do it. So I got guaranteed 10 minutes. Before we even went out there, we were told we had the guaranteed 10 minutes by Jim Cornette.
Okay.
When we went out there, we got to go home within about, I don't know, a minute. And I just looked up at the ref and I said, no. And we kept going because I knew that this wasn't going to end up being a WWE contract. I already knew that.
Uh-huh.
This movie was an entertainment thing. It was a documentary, but it was also meant to tell a story and be entertaining. And I knew that I was already cast to be the guy that didn't make it. I wasn't buffed like Droz. I wasn't as big as he was. I didn't have the background that he had and the connections that he already had. And I couldn't regurgitate on command. So I was just like, well, fuck. I'm screwed, if I don't get my time to really show that I can wrestle. At the time, they weren't even talking about interviews, which right. I can do all kinds of dialects. I can talk like I'm Irish, talk like a brother. I can talk like this. I can talk like that. I can do all kinds of different voices and characters. You mentioned pimp earlier. I can do a pimp voice. I can do a pimp act. I can do all of those things, but I was always just Mike Modest, just that, I figured if I got a job, they would tell me the gimmick anyways. Yes. So I didn't want to be a mark, like marketing myself as this like character or putting tattoos on myself that were like geared toward this character. I wanted to just kind of have like a generic name, Mike Modest. And so, man, I kind of forgot where I was. I'm sorry. I kind of got into it.
It's all good. Keep going, man. Keep going. Suicide Watch.
So anyways, we had that tryout and it went really well. And at the end of the thing, no one got hot at me for going over.
Okay.
The match got over. Everybody was happy with it. Jim Ross was happy. Cornette was happy. Vince McMahon thought that I hurt Tony on my finisher. He was like, "Oh, need work there," It wasn't my finisher. It was another move. But anyways, he was like, oh, need work there. But he doesn't understand, like, I was doing the Japanese style, you know, and WWE was never real big on that, dropping people on their heads stuff. So I had this successful thing, and WWE knew about the documentary. They knew about Beyond the Mat, and I had no heat, apparently. Then simultaneously, this NBC thing's going on. It was first presented to me as a Lucha Libre movie, and it was going to be like a movie of the week about Lucha Libre wrestling, Mexican wrestling. And so I was really excited about it. Went down there, signed a contract. The contract said tentatively titled The Wrestling Show was the name they gave for it. And so when we finally realized what it was going to be, that it was a, expose, we weren't happy with it. We especially weren't happy because Roland was getting a lot of the money. He was getting a large percentage of the cash. And so we weren't happy with it. We were going to quit. And NBC basically gave us more money. And, they told us that they were doing a good thing and that they were going to show it in a nice fashion, this and that. And they basically lied and made it kind of silly and a bit of a mockery, and really didn't give it the respect that it deserves at all. Mm-hmm. And I'm embarrassed by the product, but not that I was a part of it.
Right.
I'm happy with the money I got paid. It got me heat, and WWE was upset about it, and I was very depressed about it. Crash Holly came into my room. At the time, I was living up above the ring in the garage. Crash Holly came into my room, Mike Lockwood, and he said to me, because I was getting heat also on the internet. A lot of smart marks were going on the internet talking about this and that, and a lot of people were saying they were going to shoot with me, which never really happened. I never really had somebody shoot with me because of that. I had people shoot with me, but not because of that. But Crash was basically of the opinion of who the hell are they to judge me? I've put, at that time, 10 years into the professional wrestling industry, and this was going to be my biggest payday ever. And Crash was kind of like, WWE's already doing an expose with Barry Blaustein, so what's the harm, And so I kind of laughed about it, and I thought, yeah, you're right. And then he said, and all these smart marks, he said, who gives them the right? Right. Why are they special? What, because they know how to use a computer? They know how to research a computer, so they're smart marks, so they have the right to judge you? Meanwhile, they haven't taken any bumps. They haven't bled. They haven't sweated for this business. And so we did it based on the heat. ECW gave me a lot of heat. Guys in the locker room made comments and statements that we had found out, through Spike and through other people. And so we just did this like skit that I was going to kill myself because I finally realized, you know what? Screw these assholes. I knew that pro wrestling was entertainment when I was 5 fucking years old. And anybody who wants to tell the world that Santa Claus is real and try to get down to that, then they're assholes for lying like that. That's kind of the way I figured it. And I figured that nothing can stop an entertainment form as awesome as professional wrestling. I've been a fan of it since I could barely walk. I've loved this industry. And as we can see now, in 2017, the business is as live as ever. WWE is just fine. Everybody's doing just fine. There's so many companies right now, just in Northern California alone. Let's not even talk about Los Angeles. Okay, Los Angeles, you got Hollywood Wrestling, you've got AWS, and a lot of different companies down in Los Angeles. But it's just so many to even mention. Let's just talk about NorCal for a minute. You got All Pro Wrestling still running. You've got Big Time Wrestling running. You've got Sacramento Pro Wrestling running. Yep. You've got all these companies, PCW, tremendous companies, and they're drawing big houses. Hood Slam, drawing houses like 1,500, 2,000. These companies are alive and well. Independent wrestling is stronger than ever, which has done nothing but booster WWE, because all these independent wrestling fans, all these guys that are wrestling on the independent circuit, that's where they want to go. So they're all watching that WWE. They're all buying that merchandise. The wrestling business is alive and well. And so you know what? I like to think now, because I did get heat for it, I like to think that, you know what, me exposing the industry had a little something to do with that. People getting into it and seeing behind the scenes that these people are just regular guys, man. Like tonight, I'm going to wash dishes after I get off the phone with you guys. All right? Pretty awesome, right? But these are the things that wrestling fans want to know. I remember WWE. Now, these were kind of these were acts, okay? But they were acts that were based a little bit on smart mark knowledge or the way someone really was, okay? And I remember they did this thing with Paul Orndorff, where he was training a fat gal to lose weight, and he's putting like 500 pounds, and she can't do it, and he's saying, you know what, keep going, don't be a quitter. And she's trying, he's like, you're a quitter, now get up, now come on, let's try something else. And then he has her doing something else, and he eventually calls her a sneak. And he says, you know what you are? You're a sneak. At night, late at night, you're sneaking in the refrigerator. When you put food on your kid's plate, you're sneaking a bite here and there. And then they did another one with Dr. D. David Schultz, where it was Dr. D. David Schultz at home. And he answers the door, and he's like, what are you doing here? And they're like, oh, we were here to interview you. And he goes, oh, I forgot that was today. And then he walks in, and he asks his wife, he goes, what's for dinner? And she says, we got a little fried chicken and some mashed potatoes. And he says, fried chicken and mashed potatoes? He says, I told you I'd be coming tonight, and that's what you make? And he starts yelling at her. His kid starts smiling. He says, what are you smiling about? Shut your mouth before I backhand you. Go to your room. And he's like this mean dude at home. Now, even though it was an act, as a kid, I still kind of felt like I was getting a peek behind the reality of the situation.
Right.
You know? And I'm going to tell you, whenever you watch investigative discovery on TV, you always find that it's true what they say. Truth is way stranger than fiction. The stuff we can dream up in our heads is usually it pales in comparison to the realities of things. I always thought that pro wrestling should take the fact that it's real and not real at the same time, and use that to its advantage to fool people. And now it kind of is a little bit. They do take storylines that are based on some reality, and they play them out sometimes for the people to see, you know? And that's really all that exposing the industry, if you want to call it exposing the industry. It always pissed me off when people would ask me, is pro wrestling real or is it fake? It used to piss me off because I already know what the answer is. They already know what the answer is. Yeah. Both of us do. It's an insult to me when you ask me that question.
I agree.
You know, honestly.
I agree.
You know, I remember I had a guy in Japan. He was a white dude that was teaching English over there. And he was a guest, for some reason, of Kobashi's friends. And Kenta Kobashi doesn't eat with gaijin. He eats with his Japanese crew only. Okay. So we were eating downstairs, and him and the Japanese guys were eating upstairs. I was happy to be invited to the house, you know, and happy to have a free meal. And this jerk off that was eating upstairs with the Japanese guys, because he wasn't a wrestler, he was an English teacher, he was allowed to eat up there. He comes down and he starts kind of acting like an ass and a total douche. And he says to me, so you guys are all wrestlers, huh? And I said, well, not really. I just play one on TV. And he says, oh, cool. He goes, so is that stuff real? And I said, yeah, it's pretty real. And he goes, oh, give me one of those chops. He goes, woo, give me one of those. Come on, give me one. And I said, oh, you want a chop? He says, yeah. So I got up, and I slapped him as hard as I could in the jaw.
Good.
And I hit him so hard in the face that he literally, it took him off his feet, and he hit the ground and couldn't get back up. And his whole demeanor was such an insult that I felt like I really didn't do a whole lot. I felt like what I did was very, very reserved. And after I left, I thought, Kobashi might get pissed about that. I just slapped homeboy in the face like that when he was expecting a little Ric Flair chop to the chest.
And you lit up.
But I never heard a word about it. Kobashi only thanked me the next day. He didn't say what for. He just came up laughing, and he said, oh, thank you. And I said, what for? And he said, oh, just thank you. So I think maybe he didn't like the guy too.
Hey, he better be glad that Dr. D. David Schultz wasn't there, right?
No kidding.
Yeah.
He'll slap you in the ear. And that's the thing. Like I could have slapped him right in the ear. And people don't know, man. If you get your eardrum popped, it's hard to stand. When your equilibrium's off, it's way hard to get your bearings and to continue fighting. And but yeah.
Wow,
that was
man.
Fun.
So now, quick question here for you from Mitch Valentine. He wants to know, what was your favorite match of your career, favorite moment, and your favorite opponent? In that order.
Okay. My favorite match was probably against Yoshinari Ogawa.
Okay.
At the Ariake Arena. And it was like close to 30 minutes, and I lost the match. I used to have a copy of it on DVD, and I don't have any DVD stuff anymore. My ex-wife threw it all in the snow. It was pretty cool. But that was a heck of a match. It was 28 minutes, and it was really as close to as flawless a match as I've ever had. Gosh, man, that's hard. That's hard. Because then there's also Elix Skipper, which got me my first contract in WCW.
Okay, yeah, I remember that, dude.
That was a heck of a good match too. Just a different style of match. That was a WCW hurry up and get your shit in because you're getting a tryout and you've only got 7 minutes on TV, right? But it was a fantastic match, and it ended up getting both Elix and I signed. Then, or actually, I think Elix was actually already signed. I think he was just trying to prove himself maybe at the time. But either way, I would say Yoshinari Ogawa was my favorite match. My favorite opponent was Naomichi Marufuji.
Yeah.
Naomichi Marufuji is by far my favorite opponent. Just an incredible guy to wrestle. I could go in there without saying a word and work with him for 30 minutes. And that's what was fun about him. There was one time, in fact, it was about 12 minutes before our match, and Marufuji comes running up to me and he says, oh, I got to teach you the finish. And he starts to tell me, and it was long, and we're walking, and I'm just like, oh man. And I said, I'm so sorry, brother. I said, please teach me outside, out in the ring. Please teach me there, because right now it's too close to match time. I'm not even thinking about that in my mind now. Now I'm thinking about other things. I'm doing my push-ups. I'm relaxing. I'm getting into that zone. It's not time to remember shit, know. And so yeah, I just told him, hey, teach me out there. And then as far as my favorite moment in wrestling, it's a three-way tie. Coco Beware.
Okay.
My first time wrestling in front of a huge crowd for WWE was one of them. I was 18 years old, and to have all my friends that were also 18, are looking at me and going, "Hey, you're on TV." That was something else. And then winning the NOAH GHC Junior Heavyweight Championship against Kanemaru. That was a huge honor. And also the Tokyo Dome.
Wow. That's
because
cool.
The Tokyo Dome was a very interesting thing happened for me there. I wrestled in front of 58,000 people. And as I walked out, this is a building that famous rock bands didn't get a chance to perform in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm walking out there and I look at myself up on the big screen, and I was wrestling Ricky Marvin and, oh gosh, Suzuki, I think is his name, Suzuki.
Okay.
Gosh, it's gonna kill me because I know that's probably not his name. Heck of a worker too.
Minoru
Great
Suzuki?
wrestler. What's that?
Is it Minoru Suzuki? Is that his name?
No, he had blonde hair. He was part of Wave. He was the newest member of Wave before Misawa died.
Oh, okay.
After this, I can go on. If you go on YouTube and you research it, you find out. But it was Ricky Marvin. It was me and Donovan against Ricky Marvin and him. And it's killing me that I'm forgetting his name. But it was a great match. There was one little screw up, that was kind of goofy, but other than that, it was a great match. I loved the match, but I remember standing there, walking out and looking at myself on the big screen and just saying to myself, I just want to be home with my kids.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like when you're like, wow, I might be done with this portion of my career, because at that time, I just wanted to be home. My kids were, just born, and I had missed my second son being born because the company basically, they gave me time off for my first son being born. But when my second son was born, I already knew, because they told me with the first one, hey, we understand American style, so we're going to let you have the tour off, but please understand Japanese style. The company comes first, because that's how you provide for your child.
Okay.
And, that was a rough one, man. That was a rough pill to swallow, to miss my second son being born. It was really, really brutal. And it caused a real serious divide with me and my ex-wife. And it was like she never forgave me for it. But at the same time, dude, I'm paying the rent, it's just that simple. And so, yeah, things were kind of winding down for me in Japan at that point, I felt, But, yeah, all three of those things I'm very grateful for. There's so many amazing moments, meeting Hulk Hogan, meeting Misawa for the first time. It's just too many to count. That's why I say, like, if you really love this business, then never mind the first thing I said, because my career didn't go the John Cena route. I worked with him when he was Prototype in UPW.
Mm-hmm.
I also wrestled with Samoa Joe, Frankie Kazarian, Chris Daniels. We were all those independent guys that everyone was talking about on the internet. Mm-hmm. My career just didn't go that direction, and I didn't make the millions and millions. And, I don't have the millions and millions of fans and all that. But, man, the memories I have are priceless. You just can't pay for them. Nope. Try right now to go write a check to wrestle at the Tokyo Dome. Go grab your checkbook and see what it gets you.
Nothing.
And so those kinds of things, are just invaluable. And one day when I die, that's all I'll have are my memories and the things that I accomplished and did on this planet. I won't have the cool car or the money, So I have I have the payday that I was looking for from this industry.
Damn right. Hey, you can't take it with you when you die, Mike.
No doubt.
Hey, Kenzo Suzuki?
No.
Okay. All right. I give up then.
Yes. Kitaro. Yeah. Kitaro Suzuki.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
That's who that was. All right. Yeah. So now, hey, Dale's got a question for you from Scooter Wilson. What you got for him, Dale?
All right. So what was the best, worst hotel you've ever stayed at while traveling on the road? And what was the worst promotion that you ever worked for?
Oh, God. Okay. Worst hotel. Easy. The Narita Rest House at the Narita Airport in Japan. Easily the worst and best hotel at the same time. Isn't that crazy?
How so?
How is that possible, right? Okay. Here's what's cool about the Narita Rest House. The rooms are massive. Each room has 2 beds, and the company, Noah, always got each wrestler his own room. So each of us had a massive room. They were big. And most of us, when we got in there, we'd kind of run around because it's you're just oh, I got all this room, party time. Mm-hmm. And it was always the room. It was always the last room of the night of the tour. We were leaving and coming home. And there was also a cool bar that was like a semi-truck trailer that got turned into a bar, and it's there on the airport grounds or just off, so you can take a taxi there and then right back to the airport, at the end of the night. There's a lot of stewardesses there, and the boys always have fun at that place.
Oh, I bet.
But the male stewardesses, for some reason, always want to start fights, which is weird because a lot of them are gay anyways. So I don't get why fight? Why wouldn't you be trying to kiss the wrestler? Why are you trying to fight them? I don't get it. Anyways, so those are the reasons it was cool. It had a good plug-in for the DVD player and stuff. The restaurant only, it didn't make you really sick. It only made you minimally sick. If it made you sick, the food was bland but not dangerous. Mm-hmm. Now the reason it was bad is it had a very haunted feel to it. For one, it was a place where they would keep the Russian girls that were leaving the country whose visas had expired out, and they were working in the sex industry. So it was the same hotel, and they would put those girls on a different floor. Mm-hmm. So it used to drive all the boys crazy that there's a floor a couple above us or a couple below us that have 50 to 100 hot Russian girls that would always try to peek and look at us, but they're basically under lock and key. Yeah. They've got guards making sure that they're going to get their plane tomorrow and go home. Mm-hmm. And the other reason it was bad was the rooms were really rank, funky, dirty. Yeah. I checked in one time, and I don't know, they must have moved it there, but there was a big turd behind the toilet.
Behind the toilet?
Bizarre. Behind the
toilet?
Yeah, behind the toilet. There was always hair, pubic hair, shaving hair, all kinds of hair. There was always vomit in the cans. The cans didn't have any liners.
Christ.
And there was always vomit in the cans. One time, true story, I checked into this room, okay? I stood there at the door and my jaw hit the ground. I've never seen so much blood in my life.
Oh my goodness.
There was blood on the walls. There was blood on the floor. Big piles of it. I mean, either they killed a cow or someone bled out in that room.
Wait. Did Sid and Arn Anderson have their what was it, scissors?
This is what I'm talking about. Yeah. It was bad.
Take place there. There
was blood. Whatever. There was blood on the lampshade. There was blood. Okay. It looked like the scene from The Shining right away.
Goodness.
And I was like, oh hell no. I'm getting this changed right now. So I go right back down to the front desk and I said, Steve-O-san, Skoshi Monte, which roughly translated is like, hey, you, little bit of a problem. And I'm trying to explain to him blood in my room, but I don't know how to say blood in Japanese. So I was like, blood in my room, and then I was emulating someone cutting their wrists and cutting their throat, I'm like, so in his mind, he's probably thinking there's a dead body or someone died. So right away, he gets real panicked and he comes with me. We go in the elevator and I'm shaking my head like, I can't believe this. We go up there and we go in the room and he's looking around and he goes, Mondai Janai, no, there's not a problem. And I said, yeah, there's a problem. I go, look at the blood. There's blood here and blood on the lampshade and blood in the bathroom. There's blood everywhere. I was like, I can't sleep here. Have you ever heard of hepatitis? You know what AIDS is? I'm like, I can't sleep here, man. And he's telling me, he's like, no, daijobu, okay. I'm like, no, it's not okay. It's not. Believe me, it's not. I'm sure there's a ghost in here. If there's not a disease, if there's not a communicable disease, there's a ghost for sure. Oh. I'm not staying here. So they got me another room, but it took them a long time to get another room. He had to call like a manager or whatever, and I refused to even sit in that room. I went and stayed in one of the other guys' rooms until they got me a room with no blood. I don't, and I don't mind a little bit of blood. I understand cutting yourself shaving.
Right.
I cut my balls one time, cutting the hair on my balls. In Japan, I cut my balls, and I'll tell you, it was a lot of blood, and I thought I couldn't even look. Honest to God, I couldn't even look. I was afraid because there was so much blood running down my leg that I was quite sure I was going to need stitches and a hospital visit. Luckily I didn't, and I just bloodied up the room a little bit. But like I said, I get that you can bleed a little bit. But this was a whole different level of blood. This was gallons of blood spilled and coagulated, not even clean.
Oh, my God.
I'm not talking about a blood stain, guys.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about blood stain. Yeah, so, I mean, this was real coagulated blood. You could take a pin and scrape it off. It was pretty gross. Wow. And then as far as the worst company I ever worked for, there was one, I don't remember the name of it, but the guy's name was Jonathan Holliday, and his claim to fame is he got beat up by Brian Pillman. Him and a guy named Brick Bronski both got beat up at the same time by Brian Pillman in Stampede.
Okay.
And, but anyways, Jonathan Holliday was in an insane asylum. He met a guy that was a millionaire, told him, hey, let's make a bunch of money, let's do a wrestling company. So they got out of the insane asylum together, and they put together 27 shows over a 30-day period all over California. And we drew anywhere from 13 people to hardly anybody at all. I think the best one was King City. I think we drew like 500-600 or something like that. Uh-huh. But terrible company, and the guy was a real hustler. Other than that, maybe XPW, just because there was a lot of crazy stuff with the cutting of wieners and different weird stuff going on there. That was a pretty rough place to work.
Wow, man. Now, that's got to be some of the craziest damn stuff I have ever heard, Mike. But, hey, check this out. We got one last question for you.
All right.
Hobbs, he wants to know, when are you and him going to go at it, man? He's laying down the gauntlet. He wants to know, when are you and him going to have a match?
You know what, man? I'm ready for that match. Interesting side note, he is the godson of my former tag partner, Max Justice.
Oh, okay.
So, yes. So there's a little connection there, a little family kind of thing going on there. But I'd be really happy to get in the ring with him and spank his little ass, because I know Mike probably, Max Justice, he probably didn't do it enough. He probably spoiled the little brat. So he probably needs a good ass whooping, and I'm here to do it, man.
Hey, I'm going to go into full-on promotion mode for this one. I'm going to play Don King, man. It's going to be Ebony versus Ivory, okay?
There you go. There you go. I'm training like Rocky Balboa right now. Don't call it a comeback. Please, don't do that.
Big Black and Jack versus Short and Stat. I don't know, something like that. It's got to be something crazy.
Right.
Dale, go ahead and take us home, brother. Wrap it on up for us.
All right, so Mike, man, this has been quite a journey, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us here on the show. And at this point, we're kind of going to leave it up to you to let us know any kind of projects you got going on. Any shows, I don't know, it's like if you're still working any shows, like or any projects, and then let everybody know how they can find you on social media.
Well, you can always find me in social media. Just type in Mike Modest. You'll find me eventually. I don't know what all the addresses and all that crap are. I'm not very good, like I said, tech challenged here. And as far as things I got coming up, I've got some things coming up with PCW, possibly APW again, All Pro Wrestling. Who knows where I'll end up. But the important thing is keep supporting the independent wrestling companies, man. That's where all your major talent comes from. It all starts with the indies. Now don't get me wrong. There are some guys who they get a good break and they just get brought in and trained at the WWE training ground or whatever. And it does happen for a lucky few. But I'm telling you, they miss the important stuff when they're coming up in this industry. The best way to break in is to break in the honest way, and that's on the independent circuit. So as far as you fans, man, get out there, support your independents. They really need it, and the boys need that money. They, even if it's $25, $50, it helps. It's how they get there, and it's how they perfect their craft. And as far as my big plans for this summer, I'm super excited. I get my boys, Michael and Jack, 12 and 14 years old. Like I said, Jack's almost 13, but I get them for the summer. So that's what my plans are for the next few months.
Right on, man. Mike, all I can say is, man, to sum it up in a few words, you're a real dude, and we really appreciate having you here on the show, man. This has been quite a history lesson, almost. I truly felt like I picked up a few things along the way here. So, hey, one thing is for sure, myself, Mike, and Dale, we can sit here and talk about professional wrestling all night long. Hell, I think we almost did, for a matter of fact here. Thank you, everyone.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm very long-winded.
Hey, it's all good, Mike. We appreciate everyone for tuning in for this episode, the 100th episode of the No Gimmicks Podcast. Also, this is airing on the 3 and Out Radio Network for the first time, so shout-outs to those guys over there for giving us this opportunity, to Trey over there at the 3 and Out Radio Network. So we are No Gimmicks, no image, all wrestling, all the time. Please subscribe to our official YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/the No Gimmicks Podcast. Please make sure that you subscribe publicly so that way we are aware of your support. Check out Craig Perkins' articles on ProWrestling.com. We would like to hear from our viewers, so please leave us some feedback in our comment section. Also, please like our Facebook and follow us on Twitter at the No Gimmicks PC. Remember, sharing is caring. Feel free to share the links to our episodes with other pro wrestling fans on your social media accounts as well. That does it for this episode of the No Gimmicks Podcast. For my tag team partner Dale Clifford in Fernley, Nevada, this is Todd Smith in Bristol, Connecticut signing off. Until next time around, y'all take care.